The realtor marketing strategy that's so effective, it feels unfair. This is hands down one of the best realtor strategies I've heard in a long time. And I have seen a lot of them. I've been in the business for 20 years and I've talked to a lot of mortgage brokers. And honestly, this conversation with Joel is so good. You're going to want to listen to it twice and take notes. He took last year was his best year in the business, did just under 100 million. And he got a lot of that business came from real estate agents, and in a market where the real estate market is down. We're in a down real estate market and his business is expanding because he's not doing what everybody else is doing. A couple of things we talk about, how he's able to get in front of 300 plus realtors in a single month. Yes, you heard that right, a single month. Why most mortgage brokers look at the realtor relationship completely wrong and why it's costing them. And then we break down step by step exactly what he's doing, where you can copy this and apply it in your business. If you choose, there's some work involved in it, but dang, it's a smart idea. Hope you're going to enjoy this. Hey, I'm Scott Beckford. This is the I Love Mortgage Brokering podcast. And each week I bring you conversations and insights to help you with your mortgage business. And this one is pure gold. Before we jump into it, I want to give a shout out to our title sponsor, OwnWell. OwnWell is an amazing tool for Canadian brokers. It allows them to engage with their database. The open rates on their emails are 70+%. And more importantly, it also finds in your database people that need your help to save money. They've got these opportunities tab that will pop up for you and say, hey, these people can save 20,000, 15,000. And oh, by the way, here's an email you can send them to start the conversation. It literally makes it idiot proof. Check them out at ownwell.ca/Scott and check out this conversation with Joel. Hey, Joel, welcome back to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
I always love our conversations. I ran into you at Dustin's event recently, and I know you've been up to a lot, so I'd love to jump into, maybe just tell me a little bit about yourself first, and then we'll jump into some stuff. I want to talk about sales and marketing and all the other things.
Yeah, so my name's Joel Olson. I've been mortgage broker now for 17 years. Mostly done small town markets my whole life. Have a bit of a geographical footprint where I like to go to a lot of different markets. I've always kind of believed that, I would say two real kind of principles I run business by is that the real blue ocean strategy. I always look to compete in markets that there's not a lot of competition because it gives you a lot more, two things. Obviously, it gives you a lot more at bats, but also allows you to try a lot more things with some more room to fail. I love that. And then my favorite movie is Moneyball, where, so I always think about, where can I stack up runs? So I'm always like, okay, if this small market has 50 transactions, if I can get 10 and then I add that's how I kind of look at business that way, rather than putting all my eggs in one basket, so to speak, but having them all accumulate and run up. Right. So.
Right. Okay. We'll come back to that in that topic, because I know you've got some really, I think, sophisticated strategies around this, but let's talk about marketing in general right now. We're going to go with marketing, sales, scripting, and AI. Yeah. I think those are the 4 topics I want to talk about. What has been working really well for you from a marketing perspective? And I think you had said to me last year was your best year ever. You had a fantastic year, which is awesome. And so what kind of things marketing wise are working right now?
Yeah, I mean, we have a lot of small things, but I would say the big strategy for us as far as marketing is always, really hasn't shifted, but we've just done more of it. So, I do Mondays are realtor calls. We do 40 realtor calls. Tuesdays, we do update calls. So I'll call everybody in the transaction, listing agent, and buying agent, all that type of thing. Wednesdays, pre-approvals, Thursdays, database, and Friday do catch-ups on that. And then on top of that, I will also do a slide. I'll have my assistant send out a slide broadcast as well during the week so that I can actually double those calls. And then on top of that, I have a texting strategy too. So I'll do 30 Instagram messages to realtors, 30 LinkedIn messages, and 30 Facebook messages. And I've built about 40 scripts, and my team will utilize that off the agents. That's designed to really do 2 things, just to check in with them. And also, if we haven't moved, if we haven't ever met before, we'll do a Zoom meeting. So I've moved away from the idea even of coffee meetings. I find that we have to always remember when a realtor meets us for coffee, it's usually a realtor that has a lot of time, which is not a realtor that is the most ideal realtor to work with. It doesn't have a lot of clients.
Yeah, that's an interesting perspective, right?
Yeah.
And okay, so you've got the call strat. Do you make the 40 calls or someone in your team?
Yeah, so both. Yeah, so I make the calls, and then I have a caller that also makes calls. So I've hired someone that says, hey, let's work through the database and all that type of thing. And
so of the 40, how many would you make, you think?
Oh, that's my responsibility, 40 a day. And then on top of that, we'll do a voicemail. So let's say I'm reaching out to the database, 40 of my own calls. Then there's a database call that goes out as well. And then, various texts and that type of thing. Right. And that from the actual phone calls, the actual text messages and stuff, I do automated would not be the right way. I have somebody that does it, but there are scripts that I've architect, 40 different scripts or things like that. Right. So.
And is it the same person doing the calls as the texting, or is it two different people?
Yeah. So I actually have hired a specialized caller. I've hired on Fiverr. And so she calls the database and then schedule meetings based on, whatever comes up or whatever it is. Right. So, I don't know if you're familiar with Property Fox, but Property Fox, Own Well, utilizing those tools where there's already an opportunity, talk to somebody, and then, they're going to get those folks on my calendar that are kind of ready to do something. Right. So.
I see. So they call and get them booked. And okay, I should back up before I even get into this. So if you don't mind, so like last year, what did you do do you mind sharing files and unit and volume that you did?
Yeah, 180 units and then 95 volume.
And then what do you have for support team?
Yeah, so I have kind of 2 full-time and then 2 kind of part-time.
And the part-time people, like one of the Fiverr people, would that be one of the part-time people, or is that something separate?
Yeah, I have one person. Okay. Yeah, as a Fiverr. Yeah.
And then there's somebody else that does your messaging strategy?
No, that's part of that team. Yeah, that's part of that.
Okay. There's 2 that kind of work on production, I would assume, and 2 that work on marketing. Is that correct?
That's exactly it. Yeah, there is some kind of run over. You're always kind of adjusting, and you're always changing. Like your systems are always, when you grow, right? You're always, you always have to adjust because things are different and strategies are changing, or how we're interacting with a client or whatever it is, right? So.
Right. And okay, so then you've got this 40 calls that are being made. You've got somebody else making calls. What's their target of calls per week or per day? Is it per day or week?
Yeah, per week. Well, we want to do, so I want to do 40 of my own and 40 from another resource from somebody else every day. So we want to get to 80. They're not quite there.
So you make 40 calls a day yourself?
Yeah. Yeah.
Holy crap, that's a lot. That's amazing. And okay, and then you have a texting strategy, a DM strategy that someone else runs. And those strategies are designed are they interacting with existing real estate agents that you work with, or new referral sources, or both?
Yeah, both. I have scripts that go out. So I use a lot of scripting from a loans person named Jeremy Forche in the States. He has some really good stuff. And then I've taken those scripts, I've added my own scripts to stuff. And so it's not uncommon for a realtor to reply, say, I have a deal right now, it's going off their hinges or whatever it is. We're trying just to stay in front. And then we've recently launched a text. We're going to a once a day text to all realtors using escapes me right now, but I think it's called Line Them Up or Hit Them Up is the text app we use. And then so as a daily rate update. So, you don't want to get in the habit of going, hey, do you got any deals for me? Like, like what's going on? Like what can you present that like gets you front of mind? So they're thinking about you all the time. And secondly, gets them to the position where, it's stuff that that is useful and helpful. Right. And, really when it comes to referral source, my secret goal that I probably don't tell people is I want a realtor to feel like I'm embedded in their business, and that if things don't go to me, then it becomes, it's risky. And you do see a lot more shifting in the marketplace where you see competency, broker, and bank alike. And so people, we had a deal last week where I didn't get the deal, but the realtor says, hey, this is going sideways. Could you step in? I said, what's the situation? And it was something that I thought we could probably do, but they couldn't shift the client over. I never got the client on the phone because she's too deflated from, being turned in other places. And so a realtor has an experience like that, and they go, gee, that's not great because they went somewhere else. It's no longer acceptable for me to say, oh, well, they already have somebody. I got to take more control of the process. The way I've done that is actually when I start with a realtor, I go, hey, it was really great to meet you. I'm going to give you a template email. The email says some things we do. It has the documents they can expect. And what I need you to do is like when you have a referral, don't send them my name. Just like CC us on this email, put their name on this email and just send it to me. I thought that was the dumbest thing in the world. So I thought, is it really true that realtors that tell me they're referring me all the time, like they must, like this isn't going to move the needle? Definitely move the needle. by quite a lot.
Right. So putting that, having an email template that they send really does a proper handoff, as opposed to
Yeah,
it sets you up for success.
I think there's a certain personality set where people do like to be led, right? So when people and we tracked one realtor who, this year she's done 7 referrals, and we've closed all 7 of them so far, and that's the biggest thing. She included us on the email, so it wasn't like I'm shopping around. It's like, hey, we're using Joel, work together as a team, and then it also meant that her pre-approvals moved a lot faster because people were engaged quicker. So for her, because we get realtors and everyone gets realtors at sending deals. Gee, that person, did they call you? Oh, that's too bad. Like, it's actually very beneficial for the realtor. Like, these are moving through the process, because a lot of people don't fall off because they're shopping around. The realtor says, hey, you're not quite ready. You should talk to this person. And they just don't get around to that next step. Right.
Right.
We're like that way with everything, like all of a sudden,
Yeah.
like, why do you join a gym and want to join a class? Because you're like, oh, it's a lot of, mental inertia for me to like motivate myself to do things. You're just eliminating that objection. Right. So.
Right. That's really good. So on the marketing side, so you talked about that you're in a lot of small markets. How do you how many markets are you in? And how do you actually go build relationships in all these markets? Or is it done virtually, or what's your strategy there?
Yeah. I mean, probably total, we have a footprint in about 12. So specifically, my strategy is that any market we're in, I do lunch and learns. I've done those for years. And so if I'm going to a market, so we'll do, like this month, I think we'll do 20 lunch and learns on different markets. And we'll sometimes do 2 in a day.
How many people will come? What that 20 lunch and learns that you do, what does that represent for people?
Yeah, I would say it's an average of 10 realtors per lunch and learn. So you'll get ones that are more, and you'll get ones that like are not great, but that's okay. It's a thought that counts. Like, people. So we'll do, I'll pick the pocket for the month, and then we'll do a lunch and learn all those markets. We'll invite them via text, email. We're still using slide broadcasts, all type of thing to invite folks. We'll have a pretty massive, pretty massive kind of footprint. And so we're going to that market. We'll get that. That's all. Anytime I'm going to a new market or anything like that, or if I was starting again, I'd be like, okay, I'm going to do one lunch and learn. I'm going to invite every single realtor in the market.
And so some of those 40 calls a day, would that be invitations to your upcoming? Because
yes.
Yeah. So we're doing our broker talks events right now. They'll probably be over by the time this gets published. But this is the first time I've ever done this, and I don't know why I didn't think this before. But we had our agent concierge team just call all of our agents to invite them, and it's amazing. Like, we send the emails, we do town hall. Well, just like they're busy, and so even if they have an intention of coming, they miss it. And so the personal invitation has made a huge difference in the sign up rate of. And so I would assume it's the same with you. And you're inviting them to something is a value. It's like, I'm inviting you to something to where they're going to learn about how to do their business better, or is that I would assume that's what you're doing.
I think the way I attack most things is I always think about myself on the other side of the table. So if I get an invite to something, I might be like, yeah, I'd really like to go to that. But then depending on how connected I am to the host or the event, but was that invitation for me? Did they send it to me by accident? Like, I'll get all those insecurities. Right. Like, oh, maybe it's, and who's going to be there? I don't, but then all of a sudden someone invites me and I say, hey, look, I'm inviting you to this event, and then I say, yeah, I'd like to come. Well, I now feel like I've made some type of commitment, and to not go means I'm breaking commitment. And for a lot of people, myself included, that means that, like, now, hey, I've made a commitment, so I'm going to go to that. So you do meaningfully change, that interaction. Right. So, lunch and learns works to my skill. I feel very comfortable.
You're a good presenter. You're a good presenter. You're a good communicator. My follow-up question to that is, what do you do for topics? So if you're cycling through these, what are the topics that you're going to bring? And can you give me an example of some titles that are going to get realtors' attentions?
How I built it was that I actually asked ChatGPT at the time just to say, hey, what's the stuff that comes up the most?
No, you didn't.
Yeah, what's the stuff that comes up the most? And let's build some titles around that. So we did one on private lending. That was super well received. We did one on ways you can move up the pre-approval. So the pre-approval, it'd be like, hey, these are the 4 ways that pre-approvals can get moved up: adding a suite or a house that's suitable, adding an income that somebody doesn't realize. So I tell realtors, the first question I ask is that, was there any income the lender or broker you work with said you couldn't use? And if they say an income source, that I know we can use somewhere, somehow, that makes a difference. Have we considered, consolidating or doing a debt reposition strategy? So maybe we're utilizing like KDK financially, and we're redoing the car loan. And then fourth, have we offered all the correct programs? Have we offered them a pre-approval with a B lender? Have we, you see on discussion forums, people go, it cracks me up. People go, client is X, Y, and Z, but will only accept prime rates. Well, that's not true. You just haven't had a proper consultation with them to explain that stuff through. So that's a topic I'll do. We'll do ones on this. Right now, we're doing a lunch and learn on how to write offers that are really good on financing. So I'll talk about the idea that, like, hey, if you write these offers that are really tight, the reason they're getting turned down is that doesn't give a lender a proper amount of time, to adjudicate a deal. And if it's a straightforward deal, great. But you always want to have a slow yes over a quick no. And I'll talk about, one thing that we tell clients and realtors, we'll say, well, look, as a
I got to pause. That's a great line. A slow yes over a quick no.
Yeah.
That's good.
Well,
that's really good.
Happened quite a few times. So we'll tell people, hey, look, you get the best way to get a mortgage approved is when I send you a list of documents in 24 hours, you tell me you have it all in, or you tell me what you don't have and what you can get instead. And the biggest drag on applications are a week down the road, someone going, well, I shouldn't have to get this, or, that why do I need that? And we'll say, well, look, the way that we function is that most lenders have a 3 exception rule. It's not completely, accurate all across the board, but it's a good rule of thumb. And so, if you're going to surprise us with something where you have some exception on your income, that means we don't want to try to get an exception on your NOA, because that means 2 things. That means we're going to have to move it up the chain, or it's going to take longer. And so, we're coaching realtors on those types of things. That's why it's slow. That's why this takes a lot longer. That's why, all these types of things. So we've done lunch and learns on that. I'll do ones on financing tough properties. That's a really common thing. Like if somebody comes on, because people always have stuff that kind of fell apart, mobiles, grow ups, smaller houses, pieces of land, or whatever it is, condos. Like there's always some things that have some property issues that surprise realtors. I haven't done it for a while, but just because it doesn't really scale well for my business, but I've done stuff where I've partnered up with lenders or that type of thing. But I do it in a lot of locations, so it's hard to kind of reproduce that content if we're doing that, right?
Right. Okay, so you'll do 20. Back to the question: 20 of these presentations in different. How many people would that represent in terms of attendees in a month?
Yeah, so we can easily get to 300 to 400 people in a month.
So you get in front of 3, and then how do you actually? You've already told me the answer to this, I think, but I don't want to assume. How are you able to drop into these towns? Are you driving all the time? Like, what is your process for getting into these communities, and how far away do you? Where's home for you? Because I know you've lived in a bunch of different. Where's home currently, and then where are this circle of communities that you go drop into?
Yeah. So my particular strategy, crazy as it is that anywhere that I can drive to in 2 hours or get there and back on a plane in the same day.
And so you'll fly to a community that is, and then do a lunch and learn, and you pay for the whole thing?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. And then, so what, if you don't mind me asking, if you get in front of, say, 300, is this what's helped your business last year? Has this made a big difference in your business?
Yeah. So like I basically consider, I know to listeners, this will be probably offensive because I'm in their markets. I basically consider BC and Alberta the entirety my market. So
it's mine.
Yeah.
It's like,
I don't really go to the lower mainland because, look, one challenge that I have, and maybe there's a solution that I don't know, is that it's tougher to sift through realtors. So you get like everybody's had it. You go and sit with a realtor and go, whoa, we had a really great meeting. And then all of a sudden, and we have connection. We're talking all the time. They come to all my things. And then it's like, one deal a year, or the next year, it's another deal a year. And so that is a reflection of a lot of markets, especially in BC, where you're having a high sales volume. So you could do 2 ends a year and still kind of exist. So I don't, some people would go the idea you got to work with realtors or 8 to 10 kind of, ends. I don't do it like that. I think about everything being like a sports team, and you're getting some rookies, you're getting some veterans, you're like all different types of sizes. You don't want to be dependent on one realtor agent. But if you're doing events, it's a lot more scalable than if you're doing one-on-one coffees. If I do a
You're
one-on-one
doing one to
coffee,
many. So it's one to
yeah,
many. That's
yeah.
the
So if
key
I
leverage here is, yeah.
yeah. So if you're having a 5-minute coffee with a realtor that's only doing 4 ends, or a 5-minute conversation after an event with a realtor doing 4 ends a year, and that earns you 2 ends, that's very good value. If you're having to drive for lunch, this is really, really tough that way to kind of, achieve that type of result. So yeah, I would say that is what's kind of driven a lot of growth. I mean, certainly some of it is that, after you're in a while, you do have some good past clients. And if you're relatively competent, I mean, you're catching some of those back for sure. I mean, there's
What percent of your business comes from past clients versus new business, would you
yeah,
say?
we're about 50% still past clients and
Right.
some,
which is pretty standard. If you want to grow though, usually you've got to get the new acquisition has got to go up. Otherwise you're just sort of churning your book.
Yeah, I actually do think that a lot of brokers make the mistake of thinking that their database will sustain them. But if you really think about relationships, so 50% of marriages end in divorce. Like, why is it that people think, oh, that client's going to always like me? Like, there's a lot of situations you lose.
Hey, that's 50% of marriages in a divorce. That's a low blow, buddy. I'm just kidding.
No, I just
Yeah.
people. I think we over guess like our capacity on relationships. So you could have, you're working with a client for years and years and years, and all of a sudden their uncle or their cousin becomes a mortgage broker, or something happens, and we don't get them approved because of whatever reason, or we make it all these types of things. Years ago, I had like a minivan, and I went to get it fixed. And the garage I took it to, it was awesome. Like, it was the best. I love them. I never looked at what they charged me. And they had my engine light was solid. And they just said, that can't be fixed. Don't worry about fixing it. I never worried about it, like, because those guys were awesome. One time they were closed and I had to bring it to another shop in town. When the van was returned to me, that engine light that was solid was fixed. I never went back to the first shop, and I was not mad at the first shop. They were awesome, but obviously the second shop was a little bit better. And so I always think about that like, there's always the chance. There's so many ways that you could do everything right that you can lose people, and you can't bank on, that type of being sustainable. And with realtors, like, I kind of view most of them as being an 18 months kind of partnership. Like, it doesn't take long before they're like, they're always looking, just in any sales thing, they're always looking for the next kind of shiny object. And, like, if you don't get a client approved that, they thought should have been approved, even though they haven't paid their bills in the last decade, everybody's upset. There's tons of reasons, right? So
that's hilarious. Okay. So you fly into these communities once a month. I got a couple questions on this. I think it's an absolutely brilliant strategy, by the way, like magnificent. What does your follow-up look like? So I come to your event and I see you know what you're talking about. You're sharing, it's a value added event, but you've got to have some mechanism in place so they don't forget about you. What does that look like after I've attended your event for the first time?
Yeah. So we'll send, I have 3 intro emails we'll send. So if it's the very first time we're connecting, I'll say, thanks for coming from my event. This is the best way to refer me. So I'm always making the assumption.
You're asking for business, right? Like, it's just assumptive right there. You're just saying,
well,
hey, I added value.
I know from the stuff I know that people are like, I'm always looking for ways to tie in transactions, right? So like, where are they missing out on opportunities? So right away, hey, this is how you refer me. This is how you make an introduction. That's the freshest way to do something. If I did a seminar and I talked about, like, this was a big one last year, you talked about the idea that you could get money to suite a home to utilize rental income. Like, there's lenders, we use Strive all the time for it. And most realtors don't know that. That's a huge win. And so if I presented that in a seminar, I want them to know right away, because how our brain's going to work is they're going to have people in the next week that's going to start clicking for them. So I want that information to be super handy for them on the start. And then I'll have a number of other, emails that maybe are like, if we already know them, thanks so much for coming, here. And I do a once a week realtor email. You always just want to have ways where people, probably one of my rules I always want to think about is make it easy for people to do business with you. Like, how can you make it as easy as possible for people to transaction with you, and do not accept friction points, and remove whatever friction points there is. Even if the friction points are, we think they're a bit like, we think, like, if they got to get the documents, well, you want to remove all those friction points. I mean, lots of times we get caught up in the rate game here in Canada. But the truth is that when you really look at commentary, a lot of times people go, like, one thing I really notice consistently is that we didn't lose deals based on rate. We would lose deals based on it was easier to go to the bank. Anyway, I'm digressing off the realtor strategy, but we use 3 different emails, and then I'll call everyone that's come up. I'll talk about them. And, usually when I call somebody, like, I do think that when you call people, you don't have to have the scripting right, because, like, if you just grunt and breathe in the phone, eventually, like, you're just going to come up like with stuff. Like, it's everything is always worth doing badly. But I'm always on people going, hey, I'm just reaching out to see what I can help with. I'm not looking for transactions. I'm looking for what's on your desk right now that, like, you need a hand with. And, maybe it's a transaction that you're not sure about, or maybe, like, there's lots of stuff where people say, it's going like this, but I'm worried.
So you're actually, because your approach is, and I know you're good at this, man. You're good at the top, like you've got a reputation for solving hard problems, and so you'll jump into a file that's other brokers would say, don't even give it to me.
I call them reputation risky files or clients. So I tell realtors we take on hard files and hard people, because. And I'll give examples. Why are your people turned down? So if you, like, let's say you get a family of new immigrants. Why did they get turned down? Did they not have enough money? No. Usually what the thing is that the barrier was very strong language-wise. Their documents are sloppy. And so what's going to happen? They're going to go up against subject removal. They're going to go up against dates. It's going to be more stressful because, like, people are going to look bad and they didn't do anything wrong, right? So, that's, not everyone likes doing stuff like that, but I always set people's expectation. Like, I take on deals that other brokers don't take on, because it means that, like, I know there's a chance of me looking bad. If a realtor calls you, and this is tough for people to grasp, and they give you a tough deal. Like, the truth is that it's going to go one of two ways for you, right? It's either going to work or it's not going to work. If it doesn't work, you may have done nothing wrong, but now you didn't get done. Right? So
reputational risky deals.
Yeah.
But you're basically saying, I'm willing to take a shot at stuff. And I bet you there's people that you turn down on the first referral, and then they start referring you because of your they actually like working with you, right?
It depends. I mean, I don't get fussed with that stuff. I think it depends on, like, if we have a transaction and, we can give them more advice and more of a strategy, and they go, oh, no one else has told me that, or told me that this is what I should do or not do. That's different. But I definitely, if you spin a deal around that they're about to slide that waiver and collapse the deal, and it turns out like a realtor and a client go, oh gee, I was about to, like, I never forgot that I had this realtor early in my career, and we were doing a trade show, maybe like year 3 of being broker, and he goes, Joel's the reason I even have an income. And so he says, before I used Joel, I was letting all these deals go, okay, it collapsed. Then I used Joel, and I think he had distilled it to about $100,000 a year in deals that he was going to let collapse that he'd sent to me. And so the moment a realtor can shift like that with you is the moment that they go, I can't risk anybody going somewhere else. Like, I had somebody last week, a very new realtor relationship for us, but we have but it's gone really well. They've been a really good fit for us. And the client, is military, is a cop. And so we get to subject removal day, and he goes, I just want to let you know I'm matching it with, I just want to match with RBC. So I'm like, well, RBC is going to match it, probably be a little cheaper. I wasn't too concerned. It just is what it is. But then I text realtor, just letting you know we're all set to go. I think the client is going to probably try to match it with RBC. Totally fine. I'm not upset. I appreciate every referral. Text comes back and says, well, that's not acceptable. And I was like, what are you talking about? Anyway, text comes back 4 hours later. Hey, spoke to the realtor. She says, I got to go with you. So like, there's no RBC. That's not allowed. So, the realtor was kind about it, but her position, way that she positioned the client says, look, you went to RBC first. You complained about their service. I gave you my guy, and like, it got done. So no, you're not going back there. And like, you have to really work.
Sometimes people need to be reminded, right? And that realtor has a better relationship because they've been in their car and they've met them probably several times. So there's a deeper, they can call them on something that you may not be able to because you've only had less interactions.
Yeah. And you have to read, like, we have a really good a realtor that most of her clients don't speak English. And she says, like, I always have used Latino mortgage brokers until but you really fit me. And so we learned that the way to work with her was we had to explain everything to her first before I explained to the client. So when the client called her, that she would know. And because what you don't want to have happen is you never want someone complain about you and the realtor go, yeah, let me check with Joel about that. Because what that really means is the client goes, yeah, I was right. There was a problem. We want the realtor to know. No, whatever Joel told you, like, that's what it is. And we're on the same team. Like, you have to be very, very important. You don't treat these relationships as very adversarial, or that you really work well as a team. Your best realtor relationships are always ones where people are working together on a transaction, right? So.
Yeah, that's really good. Okay, so we talked about the marketing piece. We're not going to get through all this stuff. I'll have to have you back on again and we'll do a second show because there's too many things I want to ask about. What do you think you spend per year on this strategy because of the travel, and there's an investment? And I think a lot of mortgage brokers make the mistake of not thinking this like a business. Like, you literally can open this business with a laptop and $1,000.
Yeah,
You have
100%.
no overhead. You have no inventory. You don't have to sign a 5-year lease. And they go, but you obviously don't think that way because you're investing money in, the events. What do you, just a ballpark of what would you think you'd put into a month of this type of marketing strategy?
Yeah, I'm trying to keep it between 2,500 to 3,000 a month. I might expand that. I believe in doing, more events more frequently over doing a good quarterly event. So you'll have a lot of people that will do a good quarterly event, and they will probably have like 5 times more people that attend, but there's not enough touch points after the fact, and they don't become, they don't become front of the mind as much on that. And also it's, so that's kind of my goal, to be $3,000 a month. Cause then I'll go over that a little bit, but a couple ways I'll do that is that, I don't ever do, even though I call them lunch and learns, I don't do lunch and learns. I always do them in coffee shops with pastries. So I'll reduce the cost on them. And so my team will always pre-order the food and the drink. So I'm not racking up those. So very controlled on those costs.
Okay, that's smart act. That's it. So these are the little nuanced things you figure out, because if you're doing this at scale and you go into Cactus Club, this is going to add up fast.
Yeah, there's not, because then, and also you're going to be very upset when people don't show up. Right. So, so I do that way, and then it's very easily scalable. Coffee, that type of thing. We pre-ordered in advance. And when I do happy hours sometimes too, the same thing with happy hours. I don't, we do everything pre-done. So I've controlled that cost. Even when I do a happy hour, one of my tricks that I'll do so I'm doing like a drinks and food thing, is beforehand, I will go in and I will say to the waitress, hey, I'm going to pick up the whole tab, but I'm going to do 2 drinks a person. So what I want you to do, I'll take care of you, like a tip and everything. You just come, only give them 2 drinks. That's all I want you to do. You just don't come back the 3rd time. Right. Yeah. So then I'm not like, and the food, I'm going to order this food. And then if the group looks really gig, I'm just going to tell you to reorder the same thing the 2nd time. Right. So then I have to, that way, that's a way that I keep costs down that way. But I'm, I want to be comfortable that if something had 5 people or 10 people or 15, I can kind of on the go move very quickly on. Right.
So if you spend, let's say $3,000 a month you're spending on this.
Yeah.
And if you're getting, but if I were to divide that out over 300 people, like, that's nothing. If you get in front of 300 people and you're getting in front of people that already know you. So some of those people are going to continue to refer, and you're going to always probably pick up new. Have you tracked net new business on a monthly basis of what you get from doing these, so that you can measure like new relationships versus nurturing? Or do you separate that?
I on average every month, it can range, because you do get some that are duds for events, but we can usually, and I would say our best number started October of last year. Wasn't that we weren't doing them, but I ramped up. So particularly, I might have been doing 4 before then, but then per month, which is still a lot. But then we started ramp up in 20 to 20 of them. But how I did that is, there's cities that I go to, and we started doing 2 in a day rather than 1 in a day. But where it tracks right now as it is better than last year, we can easily somewhere between 5 to 12 new transactions a month off of them. So that
right. So that adds. And what is your average transaction size?
4,000. Yeah.
Yeah. So one transaction, you're picking up the cost, and then everything after that and then you got a new relationship on top of
Yeah.
it.
Yeah. And so that's, that's the way I look at it. And then I also, because this is also what can mess people up. I think there's two things that mess people up is that you invite a lot of people and a lot of people get upset when you invite them. Like we'll do slide broadcasts. People are like, don't call me. How dare you? Where did you find my number? That's hilarious to me when realtors go, where did you find my number? But,
Yeah. But dude, it's all over the internet.
I hope I can find your number. Or other mortgage brokers will say, stop calling my realtors. Like, I don't worry about any of that stuff because if 80% of the people like just tell me to go away and I get 20%, doesn't bother me one iota, right? Because I know that will work out in the end. And also I also look at it, it's kind of funny is that people go, like, if I had an event, what if 3 people show up at a lunch and learn? Like, would you say that's a dud? Well, no, not necessarily, because like previously, I might have done lunches or coffees 1-to-1. I'm still getting a 3-to-1 kind of multiple on that.
Yeah,
Right?
you think of it that way instead of a 1-to-1, which
Yeah.
is what most people are doing. If they're
So
doing,
I
if they're
I
meeting people.
always show up in a way that I'm in front of 20 people, no matter if there's 2 people to 20 people, because that means because if you had an event and you had 3 people, it's easy to go, oh gee, like I'll just I won't do my thing, right? But then what's going to happen? The next time you have it, those 3 people are not going to return. Where if you do it and you go like, okay, I'm going to show up as if there's 20 people to the whole presentation, like these people are important. Then those realtors are going to go, you know what? I got a lot of value that day. I'm going to bring a few other people, and you can grow organically a lot that way as well, right? And it's actually I get a fair amount of business and new referral sources from other realtors that recommend me to other realtors, and those are
Right.
strong referrals as well, right?
So how do you do a presentation though, if you're talking about something like we said, the 4 things they care,
Yeah.
speeding up your pre-approvals? How do you do that in a coffee shop? Do you have a slot? Like, is
We use
there
private rooms. Yeah, we go to coffee shops and private rooms. Yeah.
Okay, so a coffee shop, because there are lots of them that have that. So you'll get a private room. That's much cheaper than doing a restaurant or a hotel.
Yeah, coffee shop private rooms are very inexpensive.
Often you just got to buy coffee and
Yeah, some of them
snacks.
have a room charge, but like, yeah, it really is not that big of a deal. And you know what? Kind of an odd tip in this day and age with how AI works, you can really find these a lot easier, right? Because if you're searching with ChatGPT or Claude for a space like that, it's gonna scrub the reviews, and the reviews are gonna talk about private rooms. So we often find facilities that nobody thinks about because the reviews say there's a private room, and so we call and say, "Oh yeah, we have a private room. It's just free to use whenever you want it," which is perfect for us, right?
But it's not even on their website.
Not even on their website. Yeah.
Right. Man, this is pure gold. This is pure gold. And okay, so you do these events. And when did you start? You did 4 in October. Have you started ramping them up since then, or what does that look like?
I used to do pre-COVID. We did a lot of them, and I got back to them. And then I used to do a lot more happy hours. And I found that a different type of realtor comes when comes from 4 to 6 for dinner, for drinks and appies. And so I thought, oh, that seems to be our best. I just think when you do a lunch and learn, you position yourself with a high level of credibility. And so my opening spiel to a realtor is always like, you know what? I think there's a lot of great folks in the mortgage industry. But I think that mortgage competency is at their very lowest. And that's not just a bank thing, that's a broker thing. All the time we're getting people that mean well or nice folks. They just don't have the mortgage competency on knowing products or programs or the way to advocate for a client. I mean, this is kind of a little bit controversial, but you have a fair amount of brokers these days that you're interacting with a lender at a event and you're having drinks. But now you come to a situation where you got to move that file above their boss, and you don't want to do that because you don't want to upset them, but that is the job, right? And how you can navigate those types of relationships to keep all those intact, like that, those are important skills, right? So I'll tell that to realtors that, like, hey, the deal is like, I have good relationships, but I have relationships that still mean that my job is to advocate for the client. Like we have to go to lenders and still do what's right for the client regardless of anything else, right? So
Right. That's really good. And I had a follow-up question to this entire strategy. So you do coffee shops, you do the invitations, we talked about the follow-ups, we talked about approximate costs. You don't care if it's 3 people or 20 show up. I did a webinar once with the one person that showed up, and I did my web. No, they can't tell because in the room, it's like I see there's only one person. They don't know if there's 100, and they converted, and I was like, I converted 100%. I was very proud of that.
We have in the last month we have started. We used to do happy hours, but from I got it from another idea. I switched over to the happy hours, and we've been doing these beta, and they've been working out pretty well. We moved them to family happy hours. So we're inviting realtors. We told the realtors to bring their kids. That way, the costs are lower because you're not buying alcohol, but you're also getting a different type of realtor that couldn't make it at lunch. Say, no, I know you got stuff with your kids. Bring your kids along, and then we'll do happy hour. That we've had good success with that so far, but we're pretty early in trying that strategy. So
Okay, so I know what my question was going to be that I forgot. What time of day works? So what have you played with for timing?
We'll do them 12 o'clock if it's one in a city, but then we'll often do them 10 or 1 o'clock. So if I go to some places we'll do one on one side of the city and one on another side of the city. And then, 10 or 1 o'clock or 10 and 2 o'clock. I haven't really seen anything that's jumped out as being a worse or better time. The only thing I've really seen affect things is you get weather, people don't go out. But other than that, I haven't really seen a better.
And then when they register, so what is the reminder? What are you using for registration? Is it just is it Eventbrite or what is it? And then what is the reminders like?
Because people are busy. We use Facebook, and then we use Chris Johnson's loan officer CRM for stuff, and so they'll register on those links. A lot of times what happens is we'll get people event will say there's 10 people registered, but they have messaged us saying, I'm bringing my friend or I'm bringing 3 other agents from my office or whatever it is. Right. So we use Facebook for events. So that's a strategy we're ramping up a little more of that is that, we can because we have a master list of every realtor in every city we go to, we've built out. So we can go on the list and we can just invite every realtor in that area. Right. So.
Right. Okay. Dude, this has been awesome. It's been a masterclass in one-to-many building relationships with realtor partners. Yeah. And I'd love to, after this, we'll set another time, not today, but I'd love to have you come back because we didn't even get to sales. We didn't get to tools. We didn't get to AI. We didn't get to scripting, but this is literally a blueprint for how to do scale real estate relationships. And it was awesome. I really appreciate you.
Yeah. No problem.
Where can people find you online?
My website, joelolson.ca. That's where it can best be found. That's where most of my footprint is. I keep all the social profiles and all that type of thing. I'm an amateur in all the social. I'm definitely no star on none of those things, but I do believe that getting in front of people is more important than making it perfect. And then I probably also believe that, one thing that mortgage brokers do wrong is when they're on those platforms. I always think about if you're going to use a surgeon, you wouldn't be like, you know what, I'm going to use a surgeon that has kids the same age as me, or I'm going to use a surgeon that has kind of the same because I really like how funny he is on social media. You have too many mortgage brokers that go if we work in a professional industry, people are not coming to us because of yes, there is a likability factor, but at the end of the day, they're really coming to you because they believe that you are the most competent type of person, right? Yes. And so you have to do things. So a strategy that I will do is that even when we're doing content or videos, I'm always looking for things that people are posting that I want to do something different on, right? So right now, I'll do lots of stuff around renewals. So you get a lot of mortgage brokers chasing renewals, which I think is kind of a bit of a fool's errand, to be honest, because that's the most aggressive thing. So I'll talk about, hey, you know what? Your best deal at renewal is going to be with your existing lender. So I'll do videos, which is very contrary to people going, don't sign don't go back. You can shop around. Yeah. And, certainly our strategy turns into a lot of business for us because we set it up front, all that type of thing. So I'm always looking for contrarian information because I know that when people are scrolling through things that they're finding us and all of a sudden we're not saying the same thing. They're like, oh my gosh, why is this a little bit different? Right. So.
Right. I was at a conference recently and the speaker said, you don't need to be better. You need to be different.
Yeah.
Because otherwise otherwise you're just in a sea of, because ultimately you can get the same mortgage product from everybody. It comes down to their experience or their expertise or their, like you said, their competence. So this has been awesome. Thanks, brother. I really appreciate you.
No problem.
Thanks again for listening. And hopefully you got some insights and inspiration from my conversation with Joel. I know that I did. If you want to improve your mindset and get better at the mortgage business, and mindset's one of those levers that can help, I encourage you to check out our Mortgage Mindset Daily calls. I run them Monday to Friday, 6 days a week. And it's a group of brokers. We get together and we go do a deep dive on a topic. And really, the whole purpose is to help you with what's going on between your ears, just like Joel, what's going on between your ears is more important than what's going on in the market, because there's people like Joel that are absolutely crushing it in this market, regardless of what's happening. If that sounds interesting to you, shoot me an email, scott@mortgagebrokering.com, or click on the show notes. There'll be a link there. Thanks for listening. And as I always say, there's no problem in your mortgage business someone else hasn't already solved. Your problem is who's got the solution. This podcast is designed to provide some of those solutions. Thanks for listening, and I will see you on the next episode.